Hi, I'm Tiffany and I'm 18 years old. Have your dates ever ended in the most unusual way? I'm sure it wasn't as shocking as mine. Watch the video to the end and you will find out how I fell into a dead faint every time on a new date, who was to blame for all this, and how my life changed. I had an amazing friend who I dated for a long time, but as you know, not all relationships end in a happy marriage until the very old age. Dustin and I broke up a couple of months ago, and I was still in shock. As a result, the loss of interest in relationships and the desire to become a robot that does not feel anything. My parents were positive about my choice of solitude. I had to think about school, work, and the future. My friend Leslie, on the other hand, thought I was crazy. Her advice was to keep it easy on guys until I really wanted to start a family. Who should I listen to? Of course, my parents. My mom and dad made me happy with a trip to Greece. Just think, I will swim all day in the sea, eat juicy fruit, sunbathe, walk, and not think about Dustin at all. And you know, my theory worked. While I was packing my suitcase and thinking about what I should take with me to Greece, I was gradually forgetting myself and not thinking about him so often. How do you switch from problems? Write it in the comments. As I descended from the plane and counted the steps, yes, this was my habit, I made a promise to myself that I would spend the entire vacation doing only meditation and would not communicate with anyone at all. No contacts. Just as I thought this, a Greek man approached me at the baggage claim terminal, explaining on his fingers that he really wanted to help with my luggage and that he was ready to take me anywhere. Well, here we go. However, I was adamant and refused him rudely enough. I had hands. After leaving the airport, I got lost and I had to find the transfer ordered from the hotel as soon as possible. And then, the door of a local taxi opened abruptly in front of me and a young Greek man with glasses invited me inside in broken English. I made it clear in excellent English where he should go in search of passengers, but he wouldn't let up and promised to even take me where I told him for free. Thank God at the right moment I saw my transfer and rushed to it. I liked the hotel very much, but there was no point in staying there. I put on a bathing suit, grabbed the towel, and ran to the beach. The cool water immediately distracted me from any bad thoughts. I screamed like a child and it was really cool. Then there was a nice sunbathing on a comfortable sunbed, as I planned, but they didn't give me a proper rest. There were two young men sitting next to me who for some reason decided that I was missing the vulgar jokes and fun company. I hinted them, but they didn't understand. They didn't let me lie still, and I went to my room thinking that I would have to look for a more private beach. Otherwise, the rest would be disgusting. And I did find such a beach. It was at a distance, but it was a joy to go there because there was silence, peace, water, and a head free from thoughts. The beach was wild and almost deserted, and at night, it was empty. It was at this time of the day that I came here and swam naked. Everything was fine until one day I discovered my things were missing. Can you imagine that? I came out of the water completely naked and didn't find my dress and hat. There was only Perio. Were these the same guys from the neighboring chaise-longue who were making vulgar jokes and trying to get to know me? Were they watching me? What would happen now? Night, empty beach? I was naked? Horror seized me and I rushed to the umbrella, which at least somehow would cover me. As I ran, I heard a man's voice behind me. Then I began to run even faster, almost jumping with fear. The safety umbrella hid my nakedness, and only then did I notice that the fisherman was calling me, and in his hands, he had my lost clothes. He said they were swept away by a wave. Dressed, I felt protected. My mood lifted, and I started a conversation with the fisherman. He said that at this time, the locals organized large parties and we would just pass by one of these cafes. I was wondering how the locals had fun, and the Greek party attracted my attention, and I thought, why wouldn't I have fun and relax? The party was really fun. I danced, participated in competitions, and the guys kept treating me to delicious cocktails and natural juices. The Greeks were so sociable that even I was embarrassed when my interlocutor walked away, and I was immediately invited to dance by another. At the end of the party, I was tired, but I didn't have to go alone to the hotel. I was escorted by several guys who I jokingly promised one date each. In the morning, I certainly regretted it, but I calmed myself with the fact that I was not the only one who was resting here. There were many other girls with whom you could chat. But as soon as I left the hotel, Anis came up to me and immediately offered to take a ride on his personal boat. He drove tourists, but for my sake, he took time off to arrange a mind-blowing walk on the water. Have you ever agreed to rash adventures? Share in the comments how they ended. Everything was perfect. We were riding the waves so fast, I was laughing like crazy. I imagined myself as a pirate, then the owner of a cool yacht, then the same fisherman on the fishing line. At one point, my companion gave me some local wine and I felt sick. My head was spinning so much that I had to grab the rope to keep from falling into the water. And then, suddenly, my vision went dark and I blacked out. I woke up all wet on the shore. Did this clever Greek specially get me drunk, robbed, and so brazenly left me here on the shore? But then Anis appeared and said that I fainted in the sea and almost drowned. Well, he swam well and saved me. Of course, I was wary. I had never fainted before. Was there something wrong with me? But a friend convinced me that we had been riding in the hot sun for a long time and I was simply overheated. That night, I didn't go to the beach. I needed to lie down, recover, and continue to take my health more seriously. Suddenly, I got a call to my room and was called to the reception. Bakos was waiting there, the second friend from the Greek party whom I had promised a date. He invited me to a restaurant to taste national dishes and, at that moment I felt such a wild hunger that I could not refuse him. The place was very nice and the smells were so crazy that I could barely make it to the table. When the waiter came up and asked what we wanted, I almost shouted, "Everything and now!" And only my companion kept me from it. Otherwise, what would he think of me? We were served several dishes, one for me and 3 for Bakos. My gyro, a flatbread dish similar to a shawarma, but different in that it necessarily contained French fries, I ate for 5 minutes, and then stared at his sodzukakya, traditional patties thickly seasoned with spices. From the look in my eyes, it was clear that if Bakos didn't offer them to me, I would blow the whole place utterly, and this would be the worst day of his life. A moment later, one by one, the patties went into my mouth, and I smacked all over the place with pleasure, snacking on a Greek salad. Then I suddenly realized what had happened. Oh God, Bakos would think I was a greedy eater. Yes, a real greedy eater. Of course, I immediately began to explain that I lost consciousness at sea and now I felt so weak and a good meal brought me back to life. I didn't know if Bakos believed it or not, but I felt extremely uncomfortable. After a hearty dinner, I wanted to get some fresh air and go to the beach. So we did. Night Greece was so beautiful. Suddenly a cry came from the darkness. Bakos was hopping on one leg and almost crying with pain. I hurried to him and asked him what had happened. "I stepped on a sea urchin," was heard above the groans. Oh God, even before we left, my mother told me how dangerous these spines could be. First, the spine is not so easy to get yourself because it crumbles. And secondly, although the poison is not deadly to humans, since it is initially meant for other organisms, but can cause anaphylactic shock, a deadly reaction of the body. Knowing all this, I ran to the people with cries for help. The car was found quickly, and in 5 minutes we went to the hospital. On the way, I thought about how important it was to be around people when you suddenly felt bad. I fell into the water and could have simply drowned. Bacchus could also have been badly injured from the sea urchin, and to reach people skipping on one leg, well, this was so much, and the moment of salvation, which I had a hand in, approved of me and reassured me about the extra portion eaten. At the hospital, the injured friend was immediately put in a chair and taken to the elevator. I went with him to make sure everything was all right and he was in good hands. As soon as we were riding up the elevator, I felt my heartbeat quicken. Perspiration appeared on my forehead, and a strong shortness of breath prevented me from breathing normally. I put my hand on the elevator wall and then nothing. I woke up on the couch under the IV. I was scared. I didn't know where I was and only remembered when the nurse came up. In broken English, she explained that I had fainted for a long time in the elevator. I even was examined by a doctor who was about to come and explain what was wrong and what happened. And thousands of thoughts raced through my head. Was this a deadly disease, or was it just an adaptation to the Greek climate? And what if I needed urgent treatment that would not be covered by insurance? I didn't think my parents should have let me go to a foreign country alone, but it was all my fault. Why did I go to that party and drink so much? What if I got infected with some kind of virus that the Greeks were immune to and foreigners suffered all over the place? If it hadn't been for the doctor, I would have run away from the hospital and gone straight to the airport so that I could get back to my mother's side as soon as possible. What the doctor said didn't just shock me. It literally destroyed me on the spot. He congratulated me on the fact that I would soon become a mother. The pregnancy already lasted 8 weeks. 8 weeks. I couldn't believe my ears and literally put my hands over them. And then I realized that the doctor just didn't know English well. We didn't understand each other. The weight fell off my shoulders, but while I was happy, the doctor showed me an ultrasound picture and circled the outline of the unborn child with his finger. At that moment, I mentally strained all my strength and ordered myself to wake up. Have you ever dreamed of waking up at the moment of terrible events and breathing a sigh of relief that all of this is a dream? I dreamt of waking up in a hotel after a sunstroke. Yes, I was still asleep because I came to the hotel, I was sick after fainting, and I fell asleep. The dream lasted until now. I just needed to force myself to wake up and everything would end. But as luck would have it, nothing ended, but only began. The doctor advised me to get registered for pregnancy as soon as possible and take care of myself. Bacchus was waiting for me on the way out of the hospital, still limping but in high spirits. The amicable Greek was seriously concerned about my health, but I did not tell him the truth, citing acclimatization. He took me to the hotel in a taxi and I was finally alone. There was no answer to the questions, what to do, how to live further, why has this happened to me? But it wasn't them that scared me the most. It was the fact that the father of the child was Dustin, my ex-boyfriend who had brought me here, who had made me decide not to date anyone yet, who I loved so much and who had left me so cruelly. In a state of panic, I still thought to call my parents and tell them everything. My mother was even silent for a few minutes, panting, and I was even more afraid. And then she said that Dustin had to marry me after this, and I needed to tell his family immediately. I didn't think about taking a vacation anymore, so I just had to change my plane ticket to go back to the States. A new page in my history began. Right during the boarding of the plane, I was terribly sick. I kept running to the toilet. I couldn't imagine flying at all. The flight was really very difficult. I was sick during takeoff, landing, during the entire flight. The neighbors did not even take anything from the food so as not to provoke me once again, and their appetites from all this did not increase. My condition was oppressed by heavy thoughts. My life would change dramatically from now on. But I was not ready to become a mother. I was still almost a child myself. And how could I raise a baby without a father? I always dreamed that I would have a normal wedding, a loving husband who would take me on a honeymoon somewhere on the islands. Then we would live with him and carry the idea of a child. What did I have in fact? A relationship that ended a few weeks ago, complete loneliness, and a baby in my stomach. I was met well at home. My parents tried to support me with care and attention. Of course, this was extremely important for me to receive the support instead of lecturing. As they say, what's done is done. For a couple of days, I just lay there, didn't want to do anything, and then I began to wonder if baby stuff, toys, etc. were expensive. I liked going to baby stores. I felt somehow different, an adult and serious lady. As I was approaching the exit, I accidentally bumped into Dustin's mother. It was an extremely unexpected meeting and an extremely undesirable one at the same time. She began to ask me why I was so pale after I had returned from Greece. How many times I vowed to delete the account in Instagram. I was so overwhelmed that I couldn't stand it and told her everything. I literally sobbed, saying how I almost drowned, how I fell in the elevator, how the Greeks pumped me out, and how I flew with constant vomiting on the plane, causing the anger of passengers, and all this because her son left me and now this baby would grow up without a father. Have you ever dumped everything that was boiling inside on others? Share it in the comments. But my expectations remained expectations. Dustin's mother, on the contrary, was happy to become a grandmother and immediately began to think aloud about when it would be best to tell the news to her son. That's when I realized how much I was in trouble. After all, now my family and his would unite and raise my child. They would raise my child. I apologized for my behavior and asked not to tell Dustin about it. I needed to talk to him myself. I got the agreement out, but it didn't get any easier. I spent the next couple of days making up conversations with Dustin, but they all ended badly. Either he spat on me or I left after a hard slap in the face. If the virtual recognition did not stick, I needed to go to the store for baby stuff. I like being there so much now, you should know. I went around looking at toys, clothes, and even diapers. I bought a couple of packages, what was called a reserve, and when I came to the checkout, I literally stunned and almost fell. It was Dustin, in person. He worked as a cashier in a baby store. How comical on the one hand and how sad on the other. Fate had brought him to this particular store. It was all very strange, and I thought maybe his mother didn't keep her promise and told him everything. But Dustin got ahead of my thoughts and told me that he got a job here 2 weeks ago and was now on probation. Whew, it was good that he didn't know anything. Just when I thought about it, he said that actually his mother told him everything and he didn't know what to say now. What a mess! Complete failure! Everything went wrong. I didn't have a plan though. Blushing in front of his eyes, I dared to suggest that we meet after work and discuss everything in detail. And most surprisingly, he paid for the diapers himself. I was really relieved when I left the mall. I was happy. First, because I would not raise the child alone. The child's father showed that he was ready to help, and I also had help in the form of my parents and his. Second, there was no need for a confession. Dustin knew everything, and I didn't have to start this conversation. Third, I felt that the most difficult part was over. I didn't think it was going to get any easier, but at least I was not alone. Soon, Dustin's parents called me and confirmed their intention to help raise the child. And before that, my own parents reassured me once again and assured me that they would raise the baby no matter what. And then I got a text from Dustin inviting me to a movie and then straight to a restaurant. Something new stirred in me, and some playfulness inside suggested, don't rush to agree, tease him. This new pleasant feeling was reflected in me, and suddenly there was hope. What if we were together again? And it doesn't seem so impossible now. Why not try again? In the end, life itself gave us a chance. One way or another, we will still communicate a lot. And since I still care about him, perhaps we needed this particular situation to see each other in a new way.